Welcome to the Prosperity Report Live. It is Thursday night at 9 o'clock. It's time for the Prosperity Report Live. We've got an exciting show for you tonight. We have the world premiere of our commercial tonight. So we'll wait till few more people are logged in before we share that. We also have some merch to share tonight. So looking forward to that. So actually, let's start with our merchandise today. So if you are watching this video recording, you see our peace, prosperity, and Pennsylvania hat. If you're listening to the audio version on Spotify, you're missing it. But this is a lovely black hat, a dark hat, if you will, a dark hat with the peace, prosperity, and Pennsylvania logo. We got other images of it. There's it hanging on a peg. But if you own this hat, would you ever have it in any place other than on top of your head? I don't even know why they give us this image. Like it would not be hanging on a peg. It would be sitting on top of your head. There it is, sitting on top of somebody's head. Look at that. It's a lovely, lovely hat. If you purchase this hat, it doesn't help the campaign financially at all. It is you are really buying it at cost. This is printed on demand. It doesn't help the campaign financially, but it does help the campaign because the more people see our logo out there, the more that they hear our message out there. If you are sporting this lovely hat, people are probably going to be like, "Hey, that's a strong message. What's that all about?" And then you'll be able to tell them about our message of peace and prosperity in Pennsylvania. So yeah, the campaign doesn't make any money off of this, but it's still worth the purchase. So Drew, would you mind like dropping a link to this into the do you have access to drop a link into all the chats?
I think so.
All right,
Would
cool.
be. Oh no, I don't.
Yeah,
Um,
I think I can do it for us. Um,
but yeah, you were talking about how wearing this hat might spark a conversation. And then you can share a little bit about the campaign. Not only can you tell them about the campaign, but then you can lean in, have them pull out their phone and scan one of the two QR codes that are on the design for the hat. And then they'll be able to see everything about the campaign and be able to share it with their friends as well. So, yeah, the hats are at cost. It's as low as they get on Redbubble. So the campaign isn't getting anything from your purchase. You'll be able to get it as cheap as you possibly can. The main goal here is just to get the word out and have you guys wearing the hats as you're talking to people about John's campaign, knocking those last doors out there on the campaign trail. And then the big thing coming up is election day. Nothing better than, going out. PA has a big window, 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. So I've done it several times before. Nothing is better than picking a spot, picking a polling place, bring a chair, bring a hoodie, pack a lunch, maybe order something, Uber Eats something throughout the day. Just going and talking to voters, seeing where people are. Most of the time that I've done it for a particular campaign, so it's cool to be able to share the message, but just to be able to, especially if you're going to your home polling place, being able to talk to your neighbors about what's going on. You get a good sense of which of your neighbors are politically interested, especially this year. Anyone that's politically interested is going to be showing up this year, so it's a good way to get a good view of the landscape, talk to your neighbors, and share our uplifting message here with the campaign.
yeah, and both Drew and I have done the 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. Before on election day. But if you can't do 7 a.m. to 8 p.m., and you can only do a couple hours. A couple hours is great as well.
Oh,
Get out
absolutely.
and
Yeah.
because chances are, if the couple hours that works for you, those 2 hours after you get off work, or an hour or so before you go into work, those are those are times when other people are getting off of work or going into work and stopping into. So those tend to be the busier times at the polls, whenever it's not as busy at work, for a lot of people. So if you can do a couple hours at the polls, do that. If you can do the 13-hour marathon at the polls, like Drew and I often do, that's great as well. And yeah, you can look and see like what's the busiest polling place, or anything like that in our region. But I do recommend what Drew said. Meet your neighbors. Go to the polling place that's in your neighborhood and meet your neighbors, because a lot of our message is about being locally involved and building up that local community. And uh, the way you do that is by knowing your neighbors. So whenever your neighbors see you at your local school board meetings, or your local town council meetings, or at the polls, you'll start to make an impression, and they'll start to get to know you, and that's going to make a difference. So yeah, if you can be at the polls, be at the polls. And all right, I think we've given people enough time to get logged in. You ready for the world premiere of our commercial, Drew?
Yeah, let's jump into it. I'm excited.
All right. So here we go.
Hey, John, I'm not getting any audio.
You're right. You're not getting audio. I thought audio would mess up on your side if I had it. And so let's do that again. Now you're probably hearing an echo of me.
Hopefully I didn't ruin the whole thing.
No, you saved it because nobody was getting audio.
Okay, sweet.
All right, here we go. Take two. Ready?
They'll tell you the choice for senator is between an establishment Democrat who wants to start World War III in Eastern Europe and an establishment Republican who wants to start World War III in the Middle East. In the tide of war fever, it takes courage to say neither. It takes courage to choose peace and prosperity over war and inflation. It takes courage to not throw away your vote for more of the same. Be courageous. Vote for me. I'm John Thomas, and I approve this message.
All right, so there it is. There it is. There is our first commercial for the campaign. A little bit about we're opposed to World War III. It seems the other two parties are pushing us towards World War III. You saw some images there, like Bob Casey standing there as Josh Shapiro was signing missiles that are going to be shot at human beings. It's terrible, but we can make a difference. We can send a message this year that we are ready to stop this war fever, and that takes courage, Joe, because anytime you do something different, do something you're not used to, step in a different direction than what's typical, that takes some courage. And so many of us are used to pulling the lever for Republicans or Democrats. And if we want to send the message that we are tired of the endless war state, it's going to take some courage, and we're going to have to do something different. I think it was Reagan who said the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. We as a country have been electing Republicans and Democrats over and over again. And and every year, both the Republicans and Democrats are like, elect me this year and I'm going to fix this thing that's wrong. Even incumbents like Bob Casey are saying, elect me and I'm going to fix this thing that's wrong. You're an incumbent. You've had that. Like, if you think you can fix it, do it now. But no, they tend to be fixing problems that they create, and their fixes tend to create more problems. So let's not do the definition of insanity. Let's not keep doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. Let's do something different. Let's get a significant number of people who are voting third party, who are sending that message that we are not going to take this anymore, and that's how we're going to see some change. So, what were your thoughts on the commercial, Drew?
Yeah, it's incredible. Obviously, shout out to Dan Smots, the legendary libertarian video editor, amongst other things that he's very talented at, for putting that together for us. Shout out to John for doing that. I told him, like, we need an audio track for the video, and it's gonna, we're shooting for 30 seconds. And I was like, basically, you need to take your entire campaign message and distill it down to 30 seconds. And he was like, all right, sounds good. And then the next day he shot me over an audio clip that fit perfect. It was the right message, the right tone. So that was well done as well. And yeah, like you said, the big thing is for people to have courage. To put it in perspective, Bob Casey was elected to go to the United States Senate when I was 6 years old. Or wait,
Wow.
No, 8. Still, same effect. I was 8 years old when Bob Casey was elected to the Senate for the first time. Even if you want some of the things that Bob Casey is saying that he's going to do, why now? At this point, like, I have grown from a child to an adult, and he has not done it. He actually really hasn't done much at all. So, that is a case from, if you're a traditional Democrat voter, not only has he not done any of the things that he's saying he's going to do, but he's also sat by and watched as the war machine has continued to grow. And I still do believe that a lot of Democrat voters out there, are against World War III. I think most, common sense people are against World War III. But if you want to send that message, and the political cost is, maybe someone who hasn't done anything won't be sent back to Washington, D.C. I think that, a little bit of courage can give you the gusto you need to send a vote John's way. And then on the other side, Dave McCormick, if you're a Republican voter and you're looking for change in DC, I don't think that McCormick's your guy. Bush era Republican, worked in the George W. Bush administration. That's not the message of, America first, being anti-war, pro-peace, that you want to be sending right now, especially in Pennsylvania. And so, to send a message to McCormick and the rest of the GOP establishment that, you guys aren't going to put up with that type of candidate anymore, just takes a little bit of courage to send that message with a vote for John. So I do think we have a message that can really pull people from all walks of life here in Pennsylvania. And it is truly a pro-Pennsylvania message, because, as John has said, a million times on this campaign, if we're able to send that message to DC that, hey, there are people here in Pennsylvania that don't want to see the war machine expand anymore. We want to do away with the empire building so that we can, fix the economy here at home and be able to prosper again as a state. So it's a powerful message. All we need is people out there talking to their friends and neighbors. Send them stuff. Go buy a hat. Have people scan the QR code on the hat. And let's keep spreading the message.
Yeah, and on come November 6th, the morning of November 6th, most likely, um, either Dave McCormick or Bob Casey's campaign, or if you elect me, both of their campaigns are going to be having a post-mortem. They're going to get their team together and they're going to examine what went wrong. What could we have done differently in order to win this election? And if they see a significant number of people voted for a message of peace, a message of getting the size of the government under control so we don't have runaway inflation, if they see enough people voting for let's return power to Pennsylvania instead of Washington, then whoever the losing side is, whether it be the Republicans or Democrats, are going to say, how can we incorporate that message into what we do so that next time we might be able to win? So they might do that. I would hope that they would do that. The Republicans have been kind of foolish but eventually I hope they catch on. They see, okay, there's a significant number of people in Pennsylvania who are ready for this message. Maybe we can adjust our message and answer that. So that was really the message of the commercial. If you'd like to see that commercial air on different programs that you watch on different streams, that does cost money. We are planning on getting it out on different streaming platforms. We do have that already budgeted into the system. But if we want to expand the number of streaming platforms that we have it on, or expanding the window in which it's being aired, or expanding the reach of who it's going out to, we do need your funds for that. So if you go to our link tree, there's a donation link there. You can also text something to something to get it. But
I'll pull it up.
All right, Drew's going to pull it up. But you can, a couple dollars here, a couple dollars there will expand the reach of that commercial. So as you're pulling that up, Drew, I did, since the message of the commercial is a anti-war, a pro-peace, a pro-America, a non-interventionist policy from America, I wanted to talk a little bit about something that I've considered with the war in Ukraine and now the war in the Middle East, and that is the role of American misinformation and how it might affect foreign dictators. I don't know if this is how it affects foreign dictators, but if I play like put myself in their shoes camp, sometimes I know some people are saying, "Oh, you can't put yourself in Putin's shoes. That makes you a Putin apologist." But I think that it's always good to consider things from another perspective, and so we had, over the past few years, we had accusations of Russian collusion with the Trump campaign during the 2016 election that was proven false. We had stories of Russian election interference, which amounted to, I'm not going to say it was proven false, but it amounted to like a couple $1,000s worth of very, very, very poorly produced Facebook ads. They're not like the Dan Smots videos that we see. These were really, really poorly produced Facebook ads. We had accusations of Russians planting the Hunter Biden laptop story, which we now know was absolutely authentic. The Russians had nothing to do with it. So we had all of these accusations of Russia did this, Russia did that, Russia did this other thing. Most of them false, some of them with maybe a kernel of truth, but mainly false. And at the same time, we had Americans putting weapons into Ukraine. Now, if you are in Putin's seat when this is going on, and you remember that 20 years ago, we heard weapons of mass destruction, collusion with 9/11 terrorists, all about Iraq, all of that being false. And we used that as justification for an invasion of Iraq. So you saw misinformation, disinformation from the government used to support a war against the country. And now you're seeing that same country that produced that misinformation and disinformation doing misinformation, disinformation against your country, and they're moving weapons to your border. I don't know. It sounds like it sounds like you might be a little bit nervous there, and that doesn't mean that Putin was justified in invading Ukraine, but it does mean that maybe America needs to think twice about lies that we create before about the international community. And the reason I wanted to bring that up is because now we hear that Iran is maybe involved in wanting to assassinate Donald Trump. I haven't seen any evidence of this, but the intelligence community assures us that there's evidence that Iran is involved with assassination attempts against Donald Trump. Now, I don't trust the intelligence community. I don't know. Maybe it's because after 14 or 15 lies in like 3 years, it's like you start to lose faith in the intelligence community. So I don't know if that's true or not. I would lean towards it not being true. But once again, you're in this situation where if you're Iran and you think back to your neighbor Iraq, who was invaded based on misinformation or disinformation, if that Iranian quote intelligence is false, then you're like, oh, I see. They're setting us up the same way that they set up Saddam Hussein. And if that's the case, then Iran's going to be a little bit more belligerent, a little bit more forceful, a little bit more aggressive. I work in education, and one of the things that you don't want to do with a student is to label a student as a quote bad kid, because then the student is like, oh, I've been labeled this thing, I might as well live up to it. So once you start labeling countries like Iran as a part of the axis of evil, or a lot of times that's kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy. They're going to start acting out that way that they're presented as being. So I am very cautious about misinformation and disinformation whenever it comes from the government. But now the government's saying they're worried about misinformation and disinformation too. Let's take a listen to some of the examples of the government being concerned about misinformation and disinformation.
And real quick, John, while you pull that clip up, it is peace. Text peace prosperity to 888-444-8774. So if you want to help out, chip in a little bit to the campaign, so that we can, take John's ad and spread it across Pennsylvania. Peace prosperity to 888-444-8774. And I'll take you right.
Is that all one word, Drew? Peace,
yep.
Prosperity?
Peace, prosperity, all in one line there.
All right. And I just shared that in chat for those of you who are following along online. So, I'm sure that John Kerry, whenever he talks about the threats of misinformation and disinformation, he's going to approach it in that same way that I do. where you recognize that the government has put out a lot of misinformation, disinformation that's killed literally hundreds of thousands of people. And we've got to watch out for the government's misinformation and disinformation. Let's see. Is that what you're going to say, John?
There's a lot of discussion now about how you curb those entities in order to guarantee that you're going to have, some accountability on facts, et cetera. But look, if people go to only one source and the source they go to is sick and, has an agenda and they're putting out disinformation, our First Amendment stands as a major block to the ability to be able to just, hammer it out of existence.
Kerry saying the issue of...
All right, there it is. Our First Amendment is standing as a roadblock in our desire to stamp out of existence people who are saying things that the government doesn't approve of. So is it okay that we lie about weapons of mass destruction? Oh yeah, that's fine because that's the government doing it. But if you say something that's 2 degrees off of what, if you say that maybe 6 feet of social distancing isn't correct during COVID, maybe it ought to be 5 feet. Oh no, we can't have that. We can't have that. We can have weapons of mass destruction lies that kill hundreds of thousands of people. But no, whenever you regular Joes, you regular people who put on your work boots in the morning and listen to a podcast on the way to work, and you start spreading those ideas from the podcast, you are dangerous. The First Amendment is dangerous. We got to get rid of the First Amendment. That's what they're saying. And that, my friends, is what's dangerous. Getting rid of the First Amendment is dangerous. There are 2 amendments that are really keeping the American government in check, and that's the First Amendment and the Second Amendment. And if we give up those, it is all downhill. We need to stand up and we need to fight for the First Amendment and Second Amendment. I can't believe that this is even a campaign issue this year. Like the freedom of speech is such a bedrock principle of our system of government and our tradition and our core values that I cannot even imagine that there are people who would say that they think that it's not almost sacred. But maybe it's just John Kerry. I mean, he hasn't run for president for several years. Maybe it's only him. Let's see. Let's check in with Tim Walz. He's probably going to give us a better take on this, right?
At the very least, I'm sure he'll say it in a more convincing way.
A little bit more enthusiasm than John Kerry.
Around our democracy. I think we need to push back on this. There's no guarantee to free speech on misinformation or hate speech, and especially around our democracy. I think we need to
Right. There is no guarantee to free speech around misinformation or hate speech. Now, if the First Amendment protects speech from the government, you have to ask yourself, what type of speech would the government be interested in banning? Because it can't protect us from the type of speech the government isn't interested in banning. Like, it's not going to protect us from saying, like, I love my mom and I love apple pie. Like that, nobody finds that offensive. So no government in the world's going to prevent you from saying that.
Not yet, John. Loving your mother and loving apple pie will be offensive in 10 years.
So I should not give them ideas.
Yeah.
But really, it is that speech that the government finds false, hateful, or dangerous. Those are the types of speech that the government would want to ban. Therefore, those are the types of speech that are protected by the First Amendment. you don't need an amendment to protect speech that the government would not want to ban. So they ban they ban speech that, or they would want to ban speech that they consider to be false, um, dangerous, or hateful. Uh, so those are the types of speech that we have to stand up for. And it's funny that they talk about the dangers of misinformation. Whenever we've already gone over how it's the government so often promoting the misinformation, it's the government that promotes misinformation that costs lives on many cases. But also, like, look at some of the people who have been jailed for speech in America. Your people like Julian Assange, your people like Chelsea Manning, your people like Edward Snowden. These are people who get in legal trouble for their speech. And is it because it's misinformation? No, it's because it's actually true. Like, the government will lie to you and say that true things are misinformation, and then throw people in jail for sharing true things. So we need to be very, very careful about this push against misinformation and disinformation. But I think that maybe it stops there. We have Tim Walz, we have John Kerry, but certainly nobody else is talking about it, right? Oh no. Who is this?
If the platforms, whether it's Facebook or Twitter X or Instagram or TikTok, whatever they are, if they don't moderate and monitor the content, we lose total control. And it's not just the social and psychological effects, it's real harm.
Should big tech companies be able to censor speech online?
All right. We lose total control. And make no mistake about this, friends. That's what this is all about. This is about their desire to have total control over your lives. And we either stand up today and say, no, you are not going to have total control over my life. I'm going to stand and I'm going to speak out. I'm going to say the truth. I'm going to share the truth with my friends, with my family. And I am not going to be censored by you people, or we're just going to roll over and let them have, as Hillary Clinton said, total control. So what do we want? Do we want a government that has total control, or do we want to see peace and prosperity here in Pennsylvania? That is the question that we need to face coming up on November 5th. Any closing thoughts, Drew?
Hillary Clinton being in total control of anything is a scary thought. So let's not let that happen. John Kerry, famously a couple years ago, I think, likened libertarians to domestic terrorists. So also not our favorite guy. And Tim Walz, we'll let Tim Walz speak for himself. He'll do enough damage to his own cause here. So yeah, it's really important, guys. Free speech is one of those things that, like John said, it's often kind of downplayed, right? It's the First Amendment. It's so natural for people to just be like, oh yeah, free speech. We have free speech. But when you have people of this magnitude saying essentially the same thing, it's not a coincidence. They're not all just coming to this idea of like, hey, maybe we should restrict speech. They're not all, having the same epiphany at the same time. Listen to what they're telling you and understand that this is going to be an ongoing battle of ideas in the coming years, regardless of who gets in. Free speech needs to be protected, at the grassroots level, at the individual level, at all times, because these people have this idea, and just like with a lot of their ideas, they're not going to stop until they get it or until they get told by the public en masse that it's not going to happen. So, yeah, keep standing up for free speech. Keep the John Kerrys and the Hillary Clintons where they are, which is out of power over your life for the most part. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it. John, we do have some comments if you wanted to go ahead.
Oh yeah. Yeah, let's go through the comments. All right.
So,
we have a sup fellas, appreciate all of you. All right, from Chris. We appreciate you too, Chris.
Chris is a rock star, man.
Yes, Chris is fantastic. For those of you who don't know Chris, I don't know why you wouldn't know Chris. He's very involved with a lot in the Libertarian Party here in Pennsylvania. Terry Ross says that was awesome in regard to the video. Brandon says, well, the issue is Reagan's 11th commandment stated how you can't attack a fellow Republican, and people need to realize you can't vote for party. You need to vote for what will make our nation prosper. Couldn't agree more, Brandon. Criticize people within your party. That's how you keep your party from becoming a cesspool. Like you've got to criticize people within your party. Any organization that you're in, you've got to be able to criticize people. That's part of your free speech rights, right? Like being able to criticize people, and that's why we're standing up for free speech. So, great point, Brandon. And then we've got oh no, not Hillary. Yeah, I'm sorry. We thought in 2016 we put an end to your Hillary Clinton viewing, but every once in a while we have to bring her out to remind people of just how evil different politicians can be. Drew, you said something there in your closing remarks that I did want to point out. You said these people are saying it out loud. Like, believe what they're saying. They're saying it out loud. And this is an interesting rule to follow whenever you hear a politician speak, because most of the time they're lying. But Drew was just telling you to trust them. So what's up with that? Well, here's the rule. If they're saying something that is absolutely horrific, trust them.
Yeah.
Every other time, don't believe anything they say. But whenever they say something that's absolutely horrific, they're going to keep that promise. They're going to keep that one. So, all right, that's great. It was a pleasure having you all here with us today. Let's close with our commercial one more time, and we'll see you all on the Prosperity Report Live next Thursday at 9:00.
Oh, real quick, John.
Yeah.
Before we run that, anyone in the Western PA general area that's looking for an event, something to get into next Thursday. Let me make sure I have the right details for it.
We're looking at the Panera Bread and the Waterworks Mall, right?
Yes. Yeah. Next Thursday at 6:00, Panera Bread at the Waterworks. We're going to be doing our book discussion of Freedom First by none other than John Thomas himself. So our friend Ben started a liberty-minded book club for the Western PA area. And this is, I think, our third book that we're looking at. And, I was able to figure out getting John's book live in time for us to be able to do one of these book discussions on his book before the election. So if you want to come on out, talk to John and the rest of us about his book. If you haven't gotten his book yet, go over to the link tree in all of John's social media bios. Subscribe to his Substack, The Prosperity Report, and you'll get a confirmation email with the link that you can go to get John's book. So go do all of that, and then come on down to the Panera Bread at the Waterworks next Thursday at 6, and we should have a pretty good time. Should have a good crowd and a good discussion about John's book and the campaign.
All right, great reminder. And let's close with that commercial one more time.
They'll tell you the choice for senator is between an establishment Democrat who wants to start World War III in Eastern Europe and an establishment Republican who wants to start World War III in the Middle East. In the tide of war fever, it takes courage to say neither. It takes courage to choose peace and prosperity over war and inflation. It takes courage to not throw away your vote for more of the same. Be courageous. Vote for me. I'm John Thomas, and I approve this message.